Great. Thanks, Steve, for taking the time. We're grateful to have you here and hear your story. To start, would love to hear more about Pam and your life with Pam. How long were you married? How just more about your life in marriage.
Well, the interesting thing is we actually grew up in the same church.
Oh,
I was
wow.
born into that church. I'm 2 years older than she was, so she came when she was 2, so I was 4. And so that age difference over the years, of course, is massive when you're a kid, so I would never talk to her because she was very young. And then we ended up with an interesting minister, associate minister, who had a degree in drama, a degree in music, and a degree in theology. And he was our
Oh,
youth
wow.
director. And he put us together, and we started doing plays. And they were a hit. We took them on the road, in fact, beyond our church, everything. We did the Diary of Anne Frank. And so she and I worked together, and I thought she was kind of cool. And I asked her on a date. The day before Valentine's was our first date, so we always celebrated February the 13th more than our anniversary, in fact. And you can always get a good seat in a good restaurant on the February the 13th, by the way.
That's a good tip.
And then 6 months later, we got married. Boom. I was 20,
Oh,
she
wow.
was 18, and we had a 56-year run. In fact, she passed away 10 days after February the 13th. And while we both knew we weren't trying to hold on for anything, we were living each moment of that last 100 days. Nevertheless, it's obvious looking back on it, she really did want to make it to February the 13th. And
Wow.
she did. And so we had a 56-year run. And if you, here's her math. She said that's 56 years. That's 47 great years, 5 that were pretty good, and 4 that were living hell. And we laughed, and she and I just disagreed on when those 4 were.
Right.
But,
That's a pretty good ratio, though.
give you an idea of her mindset. So we had had 2 kids. We say we were young when we had them, so we say we all grew up together. And we had a good run. We had a really good life. I loved her. She loved me, and it was good.
It sounds like such a great and rich life partnership. How did you come to become her caregiver?
Well, I've got to say this because I've watched some of your other podcasts, and I was not a great caregiver. I was the breadwinner. She ran the household. I said, we'll live on whatever I bring in the door. I'll throw it over my shoulder, and then you make it all work from there. And kind of a traditional old marriage, and it worked for us. We had a great household. Our 2 kids are close to this day, and their spouses are close, and their kids are all close. And I now have a great grandbaby as of about a month ago.
Oh, congrats.
And the family unit works. So I give Pam credit for all that. And she was our volunteer. That was her contribution in the community. And then I followed around behind her under her direction when she needed something on that sort of thing. But I was not inherently a caregiver. A linear kind of guy for most of my life, dual majored in mechanical engineering and finance, and early in the computer business and blah, blah, blah. And then I got into the people business later and sold and was a speaker and wrote and all that. But she was the family caregiver. She ended up being the court of last resort for all of the aging members of our family. My dad, her mom, some of her aunts.
Wow.
She was the go-to person there, took care of all that. And then I worked in concert with her, but under her direction. So when she was diagnosed on November 16th of 20, I suddenly became a caregiver. I was thrust into the role. They said, you have a mass in the right side of your brain, and it's not good, and put her in intensive care. They were worried about seizure. And the next day did an MRI and said, by the way, you have pancreatic cancer, or a mass on your pancreas, which biopsy later is that. So she had 2 pretty clearly fatal deals in parallel and unrelated. So
Wow.
we knew that it was very, very unlikely that this was going to have a living end. And we just spent every moment together. First 6 days in intensive care, and then later at home, and a couple of days back in there. We did do some surgery on the tumor just to give her some room in there, but we spent every moment together for 100 days. She took her last breath 100 days after the diagnosis day.
Oh, wow.
And in the course of that, I woke up into caregiverdom. And, I was 75 years old. Kind of maybe late to learn that, but I did. And my daughter was phenomenal. She came, and she and her husband just had a travel trailer and got an RV park right near us, and she was there half the time and was a pillar of strength through this. And she and I
Wow.
got closer together than we'd ever been. So I learned some caregiving from her. And the end of the caregiver conversation is when I couldn't handle it, I called her, and she came over, and 24 hours later we looked at each other and said, we can't handle it, and we called hospice. And a lady came in there who was the boss of all of them. I don't know, she was just drawn to be the one to come to this situation. And she taught us a bunch of stuff, and 5 days later, Pam took her last breath. So it was caregiver. I still don't wear a badge that says I'm a caregiver, like a lot of folks are caregivers, because I'm new to the game. But I learned a lot about compassion. I learned a lot about injecting myself into situations and taking charge when necessary, and be yielding also when that was necessary. And that was a learned behavior for me over that 100 days. A long answer to your simple question.
No, and it's great context. Unfortunately, I think that actually mirrors the experience of a lot of people. They get thrust into it, and they never expect it at that moment. And so I think your experience and your inspiration here can help a lot of our caregivers. Did you know, at what point did you know how long you had? Was that right away?
Well, literally while we were still in ER, before they got us a room at the intensive care on day one, we were looking at each other, realizing, oh my goodness. And she said, and this was her phrase early and often, she says, when it's your time, it's your time. And she did a quick race. She said, we've had a great run. Our kids are good. Our grandkids are good. She didn't fight anything. I didn't fight anything. And unspoken for probably the first hours, but before nighttime that day, we both verbalized we were uninterested, each of us individually and collectively. We were uninterested in doing any treatment or procedures to extend whatever time she had at the expense of the quality of the time that she had. We agreed that anything that we did or chose to not do would be in the interest of giving her the best possible quality, and then deal with whatever amount of time was less. There was no grasping for one more day or any of the things. And I don't fault people for doing that. I'm just saying that was not our model. So
It's so important to have that conversation.
It was really, it was really powerful. It was powerful for both of us.
How did the journey evolve? I mean, you mentioned the 100 days. I imagine at the moment you were thrust into it and you heard the news and the diagnosis, there was a lot of sadness. I mean, it's just almost unbearable. And how did that evolve over the 100 days as you guys went on that journey?
That's a great great question. And I'll break it into two chunks. The first 6 days in intensive care, in on Monday and then out on Saturday to the home. The first 6 days, you're aware of Kubler-Ross's model of anger and grief and bargaining and all that stuff. And I say we just jump past all that. And we started that 6 days standing squarely in the middle of sadness. A lot of tears, a lot of hugging, a lot of sadness. But we had one foot in acceptance. That was that, hey, when it's your time, it's your time. That's an expression of acceptance by her and by me. And when we walked out of the hospital, when she rolled out and I walked out of the hospital 6 days later to go home, we had shifted and we were now standing squarely in acceptance with a foot back over in sadness. So that was the shift that we made. And that was the gift of the first 6 days, because they had her in intensive care because they were worried about seizure, but she didn't have a seizure. We didn't use the services of intensive care. They left us the heck alone. They had a ward full of COVID people, and we weren't that. We weren't even in one of the air pressure rooms like most of the others were, not air pressure, but you know what I mean, the negative airflow room. And so we just had 24 hours together. I, of course, was sleeping in one of those fold-down chairs. Somebody asked me later, what was that chair like? And the word that came to mind was medieval. And after about 3 nights of that, they actually got me a foam pad, and it became pretty comfortable. I'm an old Boy Scout. I've slept on cots before, so that was fine. But you know, when we weren't sleeping, we were together. We were talking, we were hugging, we were crying, we were whatever. And so that was a gift to be in that environment, knowing we were, and lovely staff, by the way. Everybody in that hospital could teach the Four Seasons something about customer care. Just terrific support.
Yeah.
But we didn't need them, so we had us. And I think that's what helped us shift from primarily sad with a little acceptance all the way to mostly acceptance with still a little sad as we left.
That's an amazing transition. What were you guys able to talk about that helped to make that transition?
Yeah, you're good. We were clear and expressed the fact that we knew we didn't have anything to clean up. We didn't have anything to apologize for. Hey, I said 4 years of a living hell, that her math and mine too. It was not a perfect marriage. I don't mean that. There were some rough times, and primarily because of me. Probably, I'll own that. I had a lot of growing to do. So it wasn't a perfect situation, but here in the end stanza of this symphony, this opera, whatever, we didn't have anything to apologize for. We didn't have anything to clean up. We didn't have anything to regret. We'd handle it on the way, and so we were just clean in this space, almost independent of time. Just being with one another and expressing what we wanted to express, including the sadness. At her service, I told folks, I said, I cried enough in the first few days. I got dehydrated, I think. I'm not a weepy guy historically. I feel, but I don't have sadness and weep. And I cried a lot, and she did. So certainly we went through that. And some tears happened after we got home and over the following weeks, but it trailed off. It's like, and in fact, I'm going to jump ahead and tell you this. Probably 3 weeks, maybe before the end, I was sitting on the couch next to her chair, and I teared up, and I noticed it was different. And And what I said, the language I used, I think at the time was, I noticed up until that moment, it had been tears of sadness. When I would tear up or when I would actually cry or whatever, tears of sadness. And at that moment, it was tears of love. And they're different. They were fundamentally different. I'd never experienced that. I certainly don't recall ever experiencing that clear distinction right there. And so any remaining tears were just expression. And so I used the expression at her service. I said, you know, a lot of y'all know and love Pam and a whole bit. I said, there may be some tears today. And I said, if there's got to be sadness, have your tears of sadness, but also have room for tears of love as we experience it. I said, so let's all just be having love leaking from our eyes as we go through the day. And everybody laughed, and that became a phrase that I've heard back from folks then. So we had love leaking from our eyes, and I did that day when it shifted.
Wow, I mean that's such a important distinction. The sadness to love, as you went through this transition, it seems like it mirrored a little bit the sadness to acceptance a bit, and at some point the tears were just love. That's really powerful. And I think you also mentioned before, this almost became a gift of time for you and Pam.
That was her phrase.
That was her phrase. Yeah.
Some weeks into the deal, it wasn't right at the front. It was some weeks into it. She said she had the gift of time. In fact, I posted this in the ianacare app, and I want to make a comment on the app here in a little bit. But I posted that up there that she said, you know, there are people who die in a car wreck. There are people who have a heart attack and don't wake up. People have a piano fall on them while they're walking down the street, whatever. She said there are people that are here and then gone. And she said, I feel like I've got the gift of time, because she actually had me drive her around to the cleaners, to the drive-through window at the pharmacy. And she was able to tell people thank you. She was able to express how grateful she had been for how they had treated her. Because we lived in a fairly small town and a lot of high-hun, high-you kind of folks. And in fact, that's one of the things we liked about where we lived is it's a friendly community. But she got to go around and tell people that. And she got to tell family that. She got to tell other friends that. And she said, you know, I've got the gift of time. So as opposed to counting the days of, oh my God, I'm going to die, it was using this space to do that. So the gift of time is, I think, a powerful phrase from her lips.
And, you know, so glad that, you know, you guys had that. It also sounds like in that journey of 100 days, you were really able to be present with Pam. And so would love to hear a little bit about how you were able to do that. I think we all aspire. I mean, I have a 6-year-old. I think about this all the time. When I'm with him, I want to be present. But in practice, a lot of times that doesn't happen. It's not as present as we want to be. And so, you know, when you were going through those 100 days, it sounds like you had this ability to really be present with Pam. How were you able to do that? And, you know, what was that like? Would love to hear the context there.
There are two aspects to the answer to that. One was geography. Our daughter and son-in-law, Pam and I had a split king-size bed, the mechanical thing. In fact, we had laughed when we bought it years earlier that we were buying our future hospital beds. Be careful what you say. But we took her half. They took her half and got it downstairs from our bedroom into our great room. We lived at a lake on a bluff 120 feet above Lake Texoma, looking out to the west over 10 square miles of water. We had a phenomenal place and trees around, and the houses were not anywhere near us. It's like we were out in the country in a little gated community, but we were the original house there on the bluff. And so this great room was a Frank Lloyd Wright inspired house with lots of glass and flat roof and all that sort of thing. And so they moved her half of the bed down to that room because it was obvious she was going to have a problem negotiating stairs. And we set her up right there. And the next day had the Christmas tree up. Of course, this even right there about Thanksgiving, and kids and grandkids started coming in. And within about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days, we moved my half of the bed down too. I thought I needed to get a good night's sleep or whatever, and I didn't like it. So we moved mine down there, and then we moved hers, and so we were side by side again. So part of the answer to your question is we just made sure our geography was next to one another.
Physically, the physical proximity,
And I'm still working for a living. I'm a coach, but I work by phone. So periodically I'd go into my office and have a phone call with a client from somewhere around the world and do that. So we were not together every minute, but we were together. I said there are two aspects. One was geography. The other was the desire to be together. There was an absence of desperateness. And to say an absence of something like that, as I say, it sounds a little bit weird, but I think desperate for every moment you can get could be a part of a situation like that. And it was not with us. It was an absence of time when we were together. We were not marking time. We were not aware of seconds and minutes and that sort of thing. We were just together. And really together. Really together. I was holding her when she took her last breath. Buddy boy, you can't beat that.
Yeah.
You just cannot beat that. She was only not present. She was a little bit present when the hospice lady showed up on Thursday and took charge and really helped us get clear. And I've got a story on that I'll tell you in a second. But really, once that was there, the last 3-4 days, she really wasn't here. She was gone more than she was here. So there was no trying to make sure I was communicating or anything. I just let her go. I got it that this was her process. This was her deal. And so to be able to be holding her when she took that last breath was wonderful.
Yeah, no, so glad you got to do that. You mentioned before, I mean, family dynamics is such a critical part, has a big role in the caregiving journey. How has this impacted your family? I think you and your daughter almost partnered up in this. Would love to hear how that kind of evolved from the diagnosis to. Yeah.
It's one of those serendipity universe things. Our daughter and son-in-law had 3 years earlier bought a small house that was really dirty, and they got it at a really good price because it looked ugly, and spent the next 3 years until his retirement. He was a 35-year fireman paramedic for the city of Irving, a suburb of Dallas. Great guy. You couldn't ask for a better son-in-law. And he was retiring, and so they got the house all fixed up with the intention to sell it. And in fact, they did. They got the highest per square foot price of any in that neighborhood. So they did that one right. And they were going to do the travel trailer thing. They bought a 27-foot or whatever travel trailer, and they were going to go hit the road. And so they already had it planned that they were going to come to an RV park near us mid-December to mid-January and do Christmas there before they then hit the road. They also have a small farm with a cabin and that sort of thing near where I live now in East Texas. But they were going to basically be based in that trailer. So November 16th, the world changed, and so they moved much earlier to that RV park that was 2 miles away. So that had the physical presence of my daughter and son-in-law. I don't shortchange him, but she was the one that was there most. Our son, and his wife lived about 2 hours away, and he's still working and she's still working, and so he and they couldn't be there as much. So I don't make a difference here between their involvement, because they had a very different situation.
Right, the circumstances.
The universe said, "You're free, be there," and Mike couldn't. But when he was, and he was present the whole bit. And boys and their mothers, they're just close. Yep. And he was in pain over this, and felt like he couldn't do enough, and of course he couldn't. So he transferred that, making sure he's really taking good care of me since then. So he is now relaxed somewhat and realizes I'm going to be fine, and everything's okay. So they had to process
Great
it
kids
in their own way, and her being present, I think, helped her make it the process differently than Mike did. Not better, just different.
Got it. And so your daughter was there with you in the caregiving journey, and were able to do the practical things, but your sons were there more emotional support, just because practically it was impossible, for everybody to physically be there.
She probably was part of what helped me learn caregiver, because she's pretty naturally that too. And we talked about it toward the end there. We never had a disagreement. If she'd make a suggestion, I'd go, great. Or if I'd make a suggestion, she said, great. And not just to go along, we were in sync. And so I probably learned some caregiving stuff from her just by osmosis.
That's amazing. You mentioned earlier Pam had the caregiving role in your family, and so I wonder if mother passed it to daughter, and that's great. Valentine's Day is special to you. You mentioned that before. Can you share
the day before
why? Yep, the day before Valentine's Day, and that Valentine's Day week. Can you share why? I think you talked about it a little bit earlier, but would love to hear a little more context on that.
Well, we were both into sports cars. She had dated guys that had sports cars before me. I had a big old 50 Dodge, black 4-door 50 Dodge, so an anti-sports car. But we were into that sort of thing. And so our first date was to a Sports Car Club of America weekend race between Dallas and Fort Worth at Green Valley Raceway. It's gone now. And I got a pit pass. And so we were wandering around the pit. We had pictures of us standing next to Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles and Bob Bondurant. And these guys, of course, we didn't know who they were. They weren't really anybody. Well, they were somewhat, but they weren't well known enough to us. And we got memories of Shelby cussing like a sailor because the Cobra had a broken camshaft, and he says, "Camshafts don't break, that way we don't have a spare." So they couldn't run the Cobra that day, but they ran the 350 GT Mustang, which had just been released like 2 weeks before. And this was its debut, and Ken Miles drove that. And if you've seen the movie recently, then you know all those characters. But we were around those folks, and it didn't mean anything to us, but we had pictures of that. But about 5 years ago now, going through a box, she found the original program from that day.
Oh, wow.
Immaculate. It was 8.5 by 11 saddle stitch sort of thing, and staple. And it was the whole program for the weekend, ads from the Jaguar dealer and all that, the list of all the drivers and the whole bit. We have an immaculate artifact from our first date. I mean, how many people have that? Not, of course, knowing how things are going to unfold. So I'm not into things. I'm into experiences. But that's a thing that I will hold on to for a long time.
Yeah.
And we have newspaper articles we found also that we had saved from that weekend talking about the race and interview with Ken Miles and that sort of thing. So it ended up being a red letter day. By the way, she went to the races the next day with another guy. We only had a date for Saturday, and she had a date with one of the
Sunday.
biggest guys the next day. And I was there with my brother. He was older, and we went out there together. And she actually went home with me on that Sunday. I don't know how she handled it with the guy that took her, but she went home with me. And so she knew somewhere before I did that we were going to be together for a long time.
And, so she held on, it sounds like, at the end, until you were able to have, almost one last celebration of that Valentine's Day.
And we were together that way, that day on the 13th of last year, about 21, the 13th of February. We were together alone all day that day. And talked and reminisced, and we wallowed in the meaning of that day for us. So it worked.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it's almost like, the mind can control the physical self. The desire was there, and so she was able to hold on. That's so powerful. Looking back, what do you see as the role of the caregiver as you went through it with Pam? How would you define it for others that are just finding themselves thrust into it like you were?
Oh boy, I love being able to speak definitively about things. I like to be able to share wisdom learned and earned and gained and all that sort of thing. And I feel really like I'm dealing from a short deck to answer your question, because I'm just not the experienced caregiver that many people are. But to do the best I can and answer your question, I'd say one is trust spirit, trust intuition, trust your heart, trust something other than just your mind figuring things out. It's easy for some of us to get caught up in the linear process and think things through and have a goal and take steps and cause them to happen and all that sort of thing, which is useful. That's great. You got to be able to balance a checkbook. Fine. There's no denigrating the linear mind process. But we're also intuitive creatures. We have aha experiences. Wayne Dyer, his first one that used it, said that when you're inspired, it means you are in spirit. And I got that. As soon as I read that, I thought, yes, that's what's happening. And thoughts that come in through the inspired side, the nonlinear side, they come in fully formed. The sentences don't unfold linearly. They come in and you just have a knowing. That knowing then may get linearized and linearized, if that's a good word, and more expanded upon, more understood. But you know that you know that you know as soon as an inspired thought comes in. So part of the answer to your question, I'd say trust your intuition. And if intuition says reach over and touch them on the hand, then just act on it. Don't wonder about is it the right time, or should I do it, or have I done that too much, or do I look desperate, or just just reach over. If intuition says don't reach over, then trust that too. In coaching, one of the things I've learned to coach people on is to get to where you can hear and feel and trust and act on your intuition all the time. That you're driving along and turn right today and go home a different way. If that comes up, just do it. See what happens. For whatever reason, don't give it meaning or whatever. Just practice responding to an intuitive hit, and that's a way to develop that skill set. So I coach people as a part of what I do to add that to their skill set if they don't already have it. Creatives wonder why I'm even talking about this. They're the ones that can't balance a checkbook, so I coach them to learn a few linear things too. Run both sides. But as a caregiver, one piece, trust and act on intuition rather than trying to figure it all out would be a real good thing.
That's a great one.
Another piece, and well, I'm a little hard for me to say. I was not a compassionate guy. I was not somebody that you'd look in the dictionary and see my picture next to the word compassionate. I'm pretty get it done. Let's go. I was 20 when we got married, and I became responsible, and I put that mantle on and I ran it. That's my excuse, but truthfully, I'm not a terribly compassionate guy. I wasn't. And the 100 days helped me start down the path of experiencing the benefits of compassion. I would not tell you that today I'm a wonderfully compassionate guy. I can still be judgmental. I can still accuse. I can still blame. I still got that capability. But I'm yards down the road toward compassion and compassionate and feeling it and meaning it that started really heavily in the 100 days. Really, that's when it got kicked in.
I'll
tell you a story. She, fairly early in the process, before she became incontinent and had to go with the diapers, we had a brick floor in the great room. That was part of this design of this thing, and the bathroom was down at the end of that. And she had an accident all the way down there. And I'm down on my hands and knees. She's crying on the potty, and I'm down on my hands and knees just cleaning up behind her and getting it done. And not a typical role for me. And I'm there in the bathroom, and she was apologizing. I said, look, this is love in action. Get over it. And she said, what? I said, I can tell you I love you, but let me just clean up the mess, because it's not a problem. We got a brick floor, got a tile bathroom. This is, and I got out the little steam cleaner afterwards and did that whole thing, and it was okay. It was a way to express, and I didn't do it to it. I'm saying I'm looking back on it. I'm telling you, I label it. It was a way to express I love you, and it's okay, and you're okay. And
I think that's a great.
She still didn't enjoy that she had done that, but I think she got it too. But I got it big time. So.
That is a key element of the role, just to express love for your loved one, for the care recipient. It's such a.
Did you ever read the 5 Love Languages book? The 5 Love Languages. Everybody in a relationship, I believe, should read it and then reread it and then discuss it with their partner.
Yeah.
their
I think
significant other.
it's funny you mentioned
So
it.
powerful.
I think it's Jessica's favorite book. She talks about the love language all the time, and we try to figure out what it is for even each of us as colleagues to be able to, express and kind of work the most effectively. But yeah, I mean, so that's, I think that's it's a great way to put it.
Pam and I had different love languages. They were that, and if you don't understand what's going on, it could feel like conflict. Once you understand it, you go, oh, okay, that's it.
Yeah.
Words of affirmation and touch are the two top for me, 1 and 2, and acts of service were high for her. And it took me a long time to learn to do some acts of service as a way to express love to her. So serving dinner for her was a great way to say I love you. Making it and serving it, that was an act of service. And so she was doing that as her love language, and I was just having dinner. I didn't catch on for a long time that it was that. So 5 love languages is an easy recommendation for anybody that's made it this far through this blog. Read it and pay attention to it.
Great. You mentioned earlier, and this we can probably. I mean, we don't want this to be a sales pitch for our product, but you mentioned wanting to share a little bit about that. So
yeah. Because I do want to. I don't mind. I think it's completely valid to talk about why we're here today. I sent out a broadcast early on to my network. I said, instead of using Google search or somebody else, I'm going to use the Steve search engine. And I sent out to everybody and said, does anybody know of an app that is good for tracking medications? And I got back from dear friend, former client, and a dear friend. She said, oh, try this app. And I got it, downloaded it, and it worked pretty well. We ended up not needing it, but you enter what pills you taking when, and then if the recipient didn't then log in that they had done it, then others would get a notice within 30 minutes saying, hey, that wasn't, so my daughter's phone had rang, my phone had rang, and hey, did you take your meds, and that, but we were around her enough, so we didn't really use that. But that same person then said, and by the way, there's a thing that a friend, one of her relatives had used called this ianacare thing. So I downloaded it and realized I was sending out and responding to an endless string of text, which is brutal, and some emails and phone calls. And I said, this cannot go on. And bingo, here came ianacare, and we probably used 8% of the features that you have in your software. I mainly just used it as a communication and connecting tool. We didn't need people to come walk the dog and the other things that you have in there. Actually, one person did and set up a coaching session with Pam on something, a former client of mine who is also a coach. She kind of did that through the app, so we did use that feature. But we got it going, and I then sent out a lot of texts saying, if you want to be a part of this, go here and register, because this is the tool I'm going to use to communicate with folks. And I may not even respond if you come in any other way with a text or a phone call or whatever. I just may not respond to you because this is what we're going to use. It was clear, it was easy to use and would work. And so I think by the end, you'd probably have the staff. I think we had 70 people or something like that were in the loop. And early on, I sent them a thing and said, look, I'm not going to send an update every day. I'm going to send an update when there's something to say, a story to tell, or a request to make. And in the meantime, anything you want to communicate to me back through that, I will read this and I will respond in private, though. We're not going to do this. Everybody sees everybody's deal, and so your phone is dinging all day long. That's the way I chose to use it. And some people did communicate with me directly. And then a lot of them would put postings out for everybody to see. They weren't asking me a question. They put postings out for everybody to see. I talked to a number of folks over time. They felt the connection through the process and to us and the whole bit. But I think that software just flat facilitated that. It was easy to read and then to choose to respond or not as necessary. And I'm just a huge fan of that tool that y'all had created. I'm sure you've made it better since then and all that, but it was really an important part of including people who love Pam in the process.
No, that's great to hear, and it's why we built what we built. What you described, where there's so much one-off text chains and emails, all kind of managed separately, and different people in different spaces, it just becomes so unmanageable. That's why we built the updates portion of the personal social app, and I'm so glad that Pam was able to feel the connection with everybody that she's touched in her life through this. You gave us some great feedback. Actually, that's how we met. I think you reached out and offered some feedback. That feedback we've since integrated and have made our solution much better. So we're grateful for that.
Actually, I made a request is what I did. I said, this app's going to go away, and before all these names and contacts go into the bit bucket and everything that I wrote, how do I get a copy of that? And you said, great idea. And you did a little cobble-up version first to get me some kind of crude stuff, and then you did it really. So I love the fact that y'all were hearing and responsive and added to the richness. So I thought, boy, if you do that with everybody, you're going to have the world's greatest app, because what you're doing is building what people want and need and can use, not just a great idea you had sitting in the dark somewhere with a pitcher of beer and said, hey, let's make that in there. You did real things for folks. So
no, and this is what we're here for, to serve caregivers like yourself that inspire us really every day to do what we do. So we have 5 minutes. Is there anything else you would like to share that we didn't cover?
Wow. I've just been present here. I'm not sure what all we covered. It's all okay. I'll tell you what, it's all okay. Death is like the frame around a picture. A frame around the picture. The frame is not the point. It's the picture that's the point. And death is the frame around the picture of life. I know, particularly now this COVID thing, intelligent people are running around with unbridled fear of touching a doorknob or breathing in the presence of somebody, and it's like their focus is on the death and not on the living. Live while you're here.
And it goes back to...
That's old wisdom. That's nothing new from Steve. That's old wisdom. But let me tell you, I got it. I learned it real clearly. Live.
Yep. Being present, speaking the love language to your loved ones, and enjoying the time that you have. I think that sums it up really well.
I sold a house. I've rented a house near my kids in East Texas. So I'm maintenance free, and it's a brand new construction house, so everything in it's new, and if it's got a problem, I call somebody. I don't have a burden of that. I don't like buying new cars, but I don't like the premium on used cars now, and they gave me a great premium on that. So I actually, for the first time in 20 years, bought a new car. So I expect to have pretty maintenance-free issue there for the next 3 or 4 years. And beyond that, I have a timber farm in East Texas that's all paid for, the house, and I'm going to finish solar power in that whole thing. And the rest of my powder's dry. I had the image the day before Christmas, sitting here alone with Zoe the Wonder Dog, that there's this great open plain out in front of me of possible, a level of freedom. And I've said to 2 or 3 folks recently, I said, this sounds insane to say this, to say, gosh, my wife died and I'm really happy. And yet both of those are true statements. I wasn't responsible for her death. That was her journey. That's what happened. And it happened. It did happen. And I could grieve for the next 5 years and wear sackcloth and ashes if I want. But we completed in the 100 days, and I came out amazingly whole and healthy and clean and looking forward. And now I've cleaned a whole bunch of other stuff and taken a lot of life noise out so that I'm free to figure out what I want next and how do I want my life to unfold and where am I inspired as opposed to setting goals. I'm happy. My wife died and I'm happy is not a contradiction, and it's not brutal, and I miss her and I wish she were here, and she's not, and I am. And I'm going to go forward. I am going forward now, and I'm choosing happy.
No, that's a great summary, and you can choose how to handle it. You can choose how you feel, and so you've chosen happy, and things will be okay. I'm so glad to hear that things are okay and things are well with you. Thanks so much. Really appreciate you sharing and giving all these insights to our caregivers. You just inspire us every time we talk. I get inspired, and we just want to do more to make our platform better, to share more, to help the caregivers that really need the support that they deserve. So, Steve, really appreciate it.
You're most welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. If anybody wants to talk, give me a call. I'm not going to be your caregiver, but I can perhaps give a pointer or two, or support somebody along the way. Happy to do it. I'm a coach. That's what I do. I run alongside people and help them see things from a different perspective. And if I can be of service to somebody like that, I'd be happy to do it.
That's great, and we're happy to make the connection. Anyone listening out there that would like to get in touch. So, Awesome. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
No worries.